Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a monster analysis on Korruptus. Korruptus was the king of Plethora, a tiny yet surprisingly wealthy realm. His people lived in peace and adored him as a ruler who brightened up their lives with the light of his wisdom and candor. However, when there was a sabotage of gold in the area around the realm and the monsters from neighboring kingdoms got desperate, they started attacking Plethora, trying to steal their wealth. Korruptus was determined to protect the happiness of his people. Still, Plethora was such a tiny realm that he didn't have enough monsters or machinery to defend it. He didn't want to risk half of his subjects by putting them on the line against thousands of attackers, so he started looking for alternative ways to protect them. Weeks passed and Plethora resisted the attacks of its neighbors, but inhabitants noticed that something had changed in the atmosphere. Everything was a bit darker, a bit gloomier. They couldn't understand how they were all safe if there was no one defending the city. They were also missing the company of their formerly omnipresent king. His absence arose suspicion, so a group of citizens went into the castle and up the highest tower where they finally found him. He was completely changed. His skin was now wrinkly and dark blue, his face was so deformed that he had covered it with a mask, and he looked broken inside. They all immediately understood how Plethora had stayed safe. The king had turned to dark magic to defend the realm. The citizens decided that they'd have to defend themselves. Korruptus had already gone too far. They locked the king in the dungeon so they wouldn't try any more spells, but by this point he had already gone mad and was completely corrupted by dark magic. He broke out of his cell with ease. This was the last time his subjects saw him. No one knows where he went or what his next move will be, now that the light of his wisdom has given way to the darkness of magic. I gotta say, that is a pretty darn good introductory Monster Legends lore for this monster. This noble king that basically just went to the dark side or turned to dark magic just to protect his own kingdom. I love it. So here we have Korruptus, the newest and latest monster. Is currently available in the maze if you're watching this video when it's first released. And like always, I like to do a monster analysis on new monsters so you guys can figure out whether or not this monster is someone that's worth going for. So without further ado, let's jump right into the analysis. This monster has a life set of 35,890. And for a light monster, it's not necessarily that high, however it's also not that low. Furthermore, this monster has a power of 3388, which is definitely on the lower end, but that doesn't really matter because this monster is not an attacker by any means. You can kind of already tell just looking at the damage of some of his skills. I'm seeing a lot of zeros. This monster is actually a fast control monster. And take a look at that speed stat, 3586. It is one of the fastest in the whole entire game, and in the light category, it is the second highest speed stat. He's tied for being the third fastest monster. So let me break it down. Currently the fastest monsters in the light category are the sisters, Nikashia and Kasia. They have a speed stat of 3630. Up next is Korruptus and Rosioku, who have a speed stat of 3586. And this speed stat 3586, in terms of every single monster in the game, it's also tied with that of Lamia and Itsunami, and I already mentioned Rosioku. So incredibly fast speed stat, like the 5th highest in the game. So super fast monster, and to make things even better, take a look at that trait. Area dodge unranked. You get this monster, and you have your area dodged unranked. If you manage to rank this monster up to rank 1, you will get hardened, 25% chance to get hit with 25% less chance to get hit with negative effects. If you manage to rank it up to rank 3, that hardened turns into tough, a 35% chance, and it specifically says hardened tough replaces hardened. If not, it could have potentially sacked, which would have been cool, but nope, tough replaces hardened. And if you manage to get this monster to rank 5, you get an area sunburn, meaning you'll start the game off with the enemy having their HP reduced essentially and their accuracy reduced. So really good. In terms of relics, this monster can hold the mask and the armor, so that can help him stay alive. I mean, depending on what you have, right? In the Bodis's armor, Jazzstar's mask, Eotron's mask, like you can definitely put a lot. Even if you have some of the gold relics, exhausting mask, healing mask, one of the golden armors, heavy duty armor, like there's a lot to keep this monster alive longer, and I think the area dodge probably helps the most. In terms of books, this monster is the villains, undead, and underworld, and I feel like he is a good monster though, considering he only turned to the dark arts to help his whole entire kingdom. It is what it is. With that said, let's talk about his skill set. So as usual, I like to talk about tiers 1 through 3, because I think most players are going to be able to get this monster unranked, maybe at rank 1. So I'll kind of give you my thoughts on his tier 1 through 3 skills, and then we'll talk about his ranked up skill set. So anyhow, at tier 1 we have Shadows, applies nightmares to enemies, applies nightmares to itself. So it kind of goes with the lore that he essentially injured himself to protect his kingdom, so he'll nightmares the team but also nightmares himself. Spammable, deals no damage, has no cooldown, so you could always potentially use this skill. If anything, this sets up for a nightmare, maybe a monster holding an omniscient sword. Backlash applies a random torture to an enemy, and Burning Hell applies sunburn to all enemies. It'd be cool if Burning Hell was like a burn, ignition, sunburn, and that could have been like a later skill. But anyhow, there you have it, tier 1. Not really too impressed. We do see he has a combination of dark, special, and light attacks. Moving on to tier 2 skills, we have Doomed. Applies sunburn to an enemy, applies daze to an enemy, applies nightmares to an enemy, requires cooldown. So this skill essentially does a lot. Sunburn reduces accuracy by 15% and reduces HP. Daze reduces accuracy by 25% and damage output by 25%. And then nightmares will drain HP and stamina. So only a 16 stamina cost. We have Half Polish, removes all negative effects from itself, but you give yourself nightmares. So it essentially replaces any negative thing you have with the nightmares. Not a big fan of it. It is a cleansing skill, and I guess of all the DOTs you could have, nightmares is one of the least worst ones. We have Nightfall, deals heavy dark damage to an enemy, activates all cooldowns on an enemy, applies Korrupted to an enemy, requires cooldown. So here we have our first control skill. It's a single target AoE cooldown, sorry, single target AoE. It is a single target cooldown activated and single corruption. Not a bad skill. 2 ways to deny, so if a monster is immune to corruption, at least you activate cooldowns. If an enemy monster has 0 cooldown skill, good thing you're corrupting them. I like it. It's a good attack to use against dodge area monsters. I mean, sometimes you'll face a monster with megatons, and hey, you might as well just single target them. So not a bad skill. Let's move on to tier 3. In tier 3 we have Twilight. Applies reverse healing to an enemy, applies a random torture to an enemy, applies a random torture to an enemy, requires cooldown. So this skill applies 2 random tortures and reverse healing. Reverse healing is a favorite of mine, especially with the relics in the game that heal life. This could be a really great way to take them down. Sunbright applies immunity control to our allies, applies regen to our allies, life regen that is. And I gotta say I like that skill, considering you're a monster that has area dodge. Even if the enemy was to go first, you know, just to give an old example, let's say you face a Ruby. A ranked up Ruby does Ruby Explosion, your whole team gets denied except for you thanks to your area dodge, and then you go next in the turn order, you can simply do Sunbright, give your team immunity control, so now your team won't be denied anymore. And yes, you'll still have ignition from Ruby, but the life regen will help take some of the damage. I think you'll still heal 5%, so you're fine. So I like it. And then we have Haunted Mind. Deals moderate dark damage to all enemies, applies corruption to all enemies, applies nightmares to all enemies. So Haunted Mind is your main deny skill. So it is AoE corruption, AoE nightmares. So not a bad skill. You can deny everyone by possessing them, and then again, if you have a monster with Omniscient Sword, that's a great way to deal additional damage and drain some stamina. I like it. Overall, in terms of tier 3 skills, you have a dodge area monster that has AoE corruption and a single cooldown activated and corruption. And in terms of other skills, you can give your team an immunity to control and life regen. And I think Twilight, that reverse healing, double random torture, is a good skill set for an unranked monster. But with that being said, nothing too stand out, I would say. My favorite thing being area dodge. Like hands down, and having area dodge and control and being super fast, that's the best thing about this monster. But let us move on. Let's assume you can rank up this monster. Let's see what he has to offer. By the way, he is a Forsaken monster, if that wasn't clear. Normally in the lore, there is a line where it's like, he was forsaken. I guess they could have said like, he has forsaken himself. But yeah, just wanted to point that out there. So ranking him up isn't the easiest thing to do. But nonetheless, let's see. Shine in Darkness. Removes all negative effects from one ally, heals one ally by 50%. I love that. That's definitely a lot better than this Half Polished, which removes negative effects and applies nightmares, so you can target yourself without giving yourself nightmares. It's a good healing skill. It's a good cleansing skill, again, with the fact that you have area dodge. If only one of your allies is denied or has a negative effect, you can cleanse it. Would have been even better if it was a team cleansing skill, but it is what it is. Consumed is our next skill, rank 2. Deals low special damage to all enemies, applies reverse healing to all enemies, applies a random torture skill to all enemies, gives 1 extra turn to... Wow! I like this skill a lot. This is definitely worth getting this monster to rank 2 to get this skill. I mean, everyone's gonna have reverse healing, right? So, again, there's a lot of healing relics in the game. From amulets to essence especially, there's a lot of healing in the game. So, doing reverse healing would be amazing. you apply a random torture and an immediate extra turn, which is where you can go in and do your AoE corruption, or maybe you single target someone that could maybe cleanse that. That's awesome. Consumed is a fantastic skill. Moving on, we have Gloom Soul, deals heavy light damage to an enemy, disables trait on one enemy, applies nightmares to itself. Good. Wow, that is phenomenal. Incredible skill right here. So you're damaging someone with heavy light damage. Who cares about that, right? It's the trait disable that you're after. You give yourself nightmares, which honestly isn't that bad considering you give yourself an extra turn. So if you're facing a taunt monster, this is great because after you do this, you can target whoever you want. If you're facing a dodge area monster, that's fantastic because then you can AoE deny whoever you want. If you're facing an anticipation monster, that's awesome because you can stop that monster from getting extra turn skills, especially since you have another extra turn skill. So the turn order, if you had a Gloom Soul, would be Gloom Soul, Consumed, and then your AoE deny or single target. Fantastic. And then the last skill we have is Hollow Abyss. Moderate dark damage to enemies. Removes positive effects from all enemies. Wait, what? Removes positive effects from all enemies. Oh, from all enemies. For a second I said allies. So yeah. Removes positive effects. Applies Mega Corrupted. Very nice. Applies light weakness to itself. That's fine. Who cares? The enemies are going to be possessed. I mean, definitely skills group 4 is incredible. I probably wouldn't run Shine in Darkness. I would probably do Consumed, Gloom Soul, Hollow Abyss, and then I would probably keep Nightfall for when I need a single target. You wouldn't need Haunted Mind if you have Hollow Abyss. You could always keep Sunbright for that immunity to control, but I think once you have that trait disable and Mega Corruption, you're pretty much good to go. Once again, going back to that area dodge, having area dodge is helpful because even if an enemy monster does have anticipation, you know, the enemy monster is going to have to single target you. So if you just have a teammate that has taunts or mega taunt, you're fine. You're good to go. Overall, this is a pretty good monster, especially if you can get him to rank 4. At rank 5, it becomes even better because of that area sunburn. So even if the enemy monster has anticipation and they go, that sunburn reducing their accuracy, that helps you quite a bit. But overall, I mean, fantastic monster. That trait disable skill has a 3-turn cooldown. Your other skill, reverse healing, has a 3-turn cooldown as well. Yeah, overall, I like the monster a lot. Definitely good. I think the area dodge is the best thing about him. His skill group 4 set is definitely, like, once you get to Consumed and above, definitely really good. His ultimate is Eclipse, disables traits on all enemies, removes positive effects from all enemies, applies Mega Corrupted, applies Sunburn. Fantastic ultimate as well. Starts off with the trait disable. If there's a dodge area monster, unfortunately you're not going to be able to trait disable that monster. But I mean, that's when you can do Consumed, Gloom Soul, and then Eclipse if you have it. But overall, I really like Korruptus. I love the lore of Korruptus. I think it's fitting for this monster. Overall, definitely enjoy him. But this has been my monster analysis on Korruptus. Now I need from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? Are you going for him in the maze? Any other thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much, and I will see you all next time.